Let's have a chat about this story. It's on the front page of all the national newspapers. Completely horrifying. This attack by Abdul Ezedi in central London. It's being incorrectly reported as an acid attack. In fact, it was an alkaline attack. It's a corrosive substance attack. And the question it has left me thinking is, how can someone who comes to this country and commits a crime, so he claimed asylum twice, and during that period was charged and found guilty of a sexual assault, how can that individual ultimately, on his third time of asking, be granted asylum? And that's why we want you to call into the show today about whether people who commit serious criminal offences or any criminal offence should ever be given asylum in Great Britain. Stella, it seems like this individual just shouldn't be here, should he?
This individual definitely shouldn't be here, and he's definitely a disgusting criminal. However, that does not mean that on the basis of one person, we're going to create a second-tier citizenship for everyone else who comes here as an asylum or for any other type of immigrant. I was horrified to go on Twitter and see how many people are actually asking that any type of immigrant should be deported or their citizenship removed if they commit any kind of crime. Now, my problem with this debate is, where do you draw the line? What kind of crimes are you talking about? What kind of immigrants are you talking about? And how do you make sure that people's human rights are protected? Because not everyone is going to be a sex offender. Not everyone is going to commit this heinous crime.
But, OK, so I would agree. There is a difference between a mother who might go into a supermarket and take a carton of baby formula off the shelf because her child is hungry. That is one type of crime where people would say it would be ridiculous if you weren't allowed to remain in the UK because you wanted to feed your children. This guy was a sex offender, and he was found to be a sex offender while he was waiting to have his case determined. Surely, Matthew, I'll ask you the question, he should not have been allowed to stay in the country. To go on and then commit this horrendous acid attack, so-called acid attack, in central London.
So I think that at the moment it's 1 year. If you're sentenced to a crime, because he didn't get a prison sentence, he was given a non-custodial sentence. And at the moment, the government reduced from 2 years to 1 year the maximum sentence. So anything over 1 year prison sentence, you're out. Although I'd like to see what the removal rate is, but in theory, you're out. I think that the issue is maybe that isn't strong enough, and you need to look at specific crimes. So as you say, if it's a sexual crime, it's a crime of violence, even if you get less than a year in prison, and you know, it should count against you and you should go. What strikes me particularly about this case, though, is the fact that his appeal worked because he got a note from a vicar. Which is, I mean, which is just extraordinary, because it's not once but twice, and then on the third time, eventually he managed to get a note from a vicar and he got signed off. So I think that to me is even more worrying, because we need cases looked at on the merits and not if somebody suddenly has a conversion.
But this is someone playing the system. The guy who blew himself up outside Liverpool Women's Hospital, the suicide bomber, he apparently converted to Christianity. This is the latest way they're fiddling the system. Don't send me back to Afghanistan. I'm Muslim. I've converted to Christianity. And therefore, I think they're described as an apostate completely incorrectly in their home country. So they say they can't go back. This is people playing the system. But these sort of corduroy-wearing, sort of well-meaning vicars in central London or in Liverpool, slightly befuddled by deeply motivated people who want to remain in the UK.
I think it's unfair to paint everyone with the same brush. I do think there needs to be a case-by-case situation where we look at what happened in each case. You don't know the mitigating circumstances. You don't know exactly what's been said and done. Definitely, I'm not supporting that the vicar who gave this person a character statement, but I do think that if we want migrants to not self-segregate and we want them to assimilate, and we have all of these problems with multiculturalism, then we cannot turn around and say you becoming a Christian and assimilating into the society means nothing. Obviously, this was not the case with this guy, but
or
I'm just
the one
saying,
who blew himself up in Liverpool.
or that one. But I'm just saying we should not just say any immigrant who comes here and becomes a Christian is doing this.
I think it's great if people want to pursue whatever faith they want. I think the issue with this is he didn't flee because he was a Christian. He became a Christian when he was here. So it's people. If it's the original cause of the asylum thing, we've seen persecution of Christians around the world, then that is a very strong case.
In China.
But, yeah, absolutely. But it's a case of becoming a Christian when you're here. Fine, but how is that relevant? Because that's not relevant to your original asylum application.
And let's just remind ourselves of the timeline in here. Abdul Ezedi came into the UK back in 2016, illegally entering the UK on a lorry, which is what people did those days before people came over on small boats. He made his first 2 asylum claims that were refused. And between, I believe, the second and the third asylum claim, he was convicted of a sexual assault. He then claimed to have converted to Christianity and was able, on a third attempt, to remain in the country. Just earlier this week, he travelled down from Newcastle to attack a woman and her 2 children with acid in central London. This is an asylum system, Matthew, that is in chaos. Boats up 13% this year, despite the Prime Minister's pledge that he will stop the boats. We have people coming into this country, criminals. We have no idea who they are, gaming our system, getting the right to remain in the UK. This is completely wrong. And people who say the Tories are too tough on this, sending people to Rwanda, should look at this case and understand why we are doing it. We have hundreds of thousands of young men, many of them we don't know, many of them might be criminals, who are gaming the system to stay in the UK. This is why we've got to be tougher on asylum, surely.
Yeah, I don't think I would say the Tories are too tough. I'd say the Tories haven't got a plan that's working or works. So I think we need to be tougher in some areas. So that's why Labour's got...
tougher like the Labour Party?
Yes, tougher to smash the gangs. And that's why Labour's got its plan to smash the gangs, which includes using anti-terrorism legislation against people trafficking gangs. The Tories could do that. They haven't. That involves getting tougher, to use your language, Jake. Or the cross-border police unit that people are crying out for to take real action. Now, it won't be a wave of magic wand. That's why the Prime Minister was silly, to put it politely, to put "stop the boats" as a 3-word slogan. But yes, we need to stop these criminal gangs at source, and we need to process people who come here so much faster, so we don't have this huge backlog of people hanging around on street corners in communities like yours, Jade.